Felicia Fiddle and I are here because I loaded the footage for this video onto my computer and started editing and realized that I was out of focus for about the first 5 minutes. Now I definitely contemplated quite a bit reshooting, but I actually really enjoy the video and how it goes and how it began and how it goes together. So please bear with those first 5 minutes, maybe even close your eyes and just listen if the visual is irritating you, and we will have a great old time together. Enjoy! Hello my friends, welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Casey Louise and you can find me on Instagram at casey.louise. I'd love if you followed along over there, and feel free to leave me any comments, video suggestions, or even just to reach out and say good day. I really always love hearing from you and speaking to you. And the topic for today's video is let's break the stigma around mental health and how we as individuals can each do our part to help break that stigma. And so what I thought might be really useful to begin with is if I just define stigma. So I went to old mate Wikipedia and found a nice little definition. It says that social stigma is the disapproval of or discrimination against a person based on perceivable characteristics that distinguish them from other members of society. And something that I always associate with stigma as well is this sense of shame, that people can be ashamed of what their experience is or what they're going through or their mental illness that maybe they've been diagnosed with. But remembering too that an individual, just because they're challenged in their mental health or with a mental illness, that isn't them, that does not make them who they are. So let's all remember to see each other as humans first rather than as any kind of diagnosis or challenge. I really wanted to talk about stigma because it can be quite the barrier to people getting the help that they need. And it is sort of said that the sooner that people can get help, the easier it's going to be to actually help them. And rather than getting stuck in this cycle of shame and of stigma and of seeing challenges as a personal flaw or fault, once we're able to normalize and remove the stigma around these challenges, then that person is much more likely to lean into support, to ask for support, whether that's professional support, whether that's friends or family. And we all know that humans are social beings and that we do actually need support, whether it's from a few people or from lots of people. That depends on you as an individual. But getting support through challenges is of vital importance, because otherwise it leads to isolation and really cutting yourself off from people and then feeling more alone, and then that perpetuates the cycle of mental health challenges. Really important to note right now before I forget that I am not a mental health care professional. I'm just an individual who has my own challenges and am bringing my own lived experience and what I understand from the world to, I guess, offer my own insight and to discuss things that I understand. But remember that the internet will never, ever, ever, and should never, ever, ever take the place of professional support and help. And I, of course, will link some of those supports down in the description box below. So back to talking about how stigma can really stand in the way of people getting support. In my own personal experience, my worry about what people would think stopped me from even telling the people who are closest to me and the people who are most supportive of me of my struggles. So I really isolated and pretended that I was fine. I am an absolute professional at putting a big old smile on my face and convincing people that I'm bright and bubbly and fun and that everything is okay. But quite often it is those people who can appear most okay on the surface that can actually be struggling beneath. So remember to always reach out to your strong friends, to your bright friends, to your bubbly friends, and check in on them and their mental health as well. And something else that I kind of want to note is that nobody ever told me that I was stupid or crazy for what I'm going through. But somehow along the way, I definitely internalized that belief. And I think that it's important for us to examine the media that we consume, the social media that we consume, and to really notice the sort of subtle effects, the subconscious effects that that can have on us and our perception of ourselves and of the world, and of what is okay and what is not, and what we should be ashamed of and what we shouldn't be ashamed of, when really mental health challenges are a part of the human experience. And the more that we talk about them, the more that we normalize them, the more that we can reduce the stigma and, I guess, best equip ourselves and each other to get the support that we need. Now, some of the ways that stigma can show up in mental health is, for example, with the eating disorder, is that people can tell you that you've brought it upon yourself. And I've had that from health professionals in the public system telling me that I should just eat, and that whatever physical challenges that have come up are, fixed by just eating, and why can't I just eat? And I think that there's this real lack of understanding that I have insight, I have awareness, I know what I could or should do, but I just have trouble executing that. And so stigma shows up in that way of, telling people that they've brought it upon themselves, or that they're the one in charge who can be the only person to make the change, that you need to change your way of thinking, or my absolute personal favorite, telling people that they should just be a bit more positive. My response to people saying that maybe you should just try a bit of positivity or a bit of gratitude is A, and B, to ask you whether you would say that to someone with diabetes, to someone with cancer, to someone who's had an accident and broken their leg. Would you tell them that they're going to get better by thinking positive thoughts and being grateful for what they have? Now look, I might be getting a bit sassy and a bit narky, but you wouldn't tell those people that that's the only treatment that they need, would you? I don't think so. And so it's really important for us to acknowledge that mental health challenges and mental illness need extra support. They don't need positive thinking. They don't need to be told that what they're going through can just be changed by the power of their thoughts. Of course, there are elements that can be changed by your thoughts, by challenging behaviors, by sometimes zooming out and having a look at the big picture, but that isn't the only solution. Stop telling people with mental health challenges to positively think their way out of it. It's bullshit. Good. So now we've had a good little discussion about all of the ways that stigma can show up, or what stigma even is. I hope you've got a little bit of a better understanding about it. A golden question is, what do we do to help? Number one thing that I think we can do to help, talk about it. Talk about it with your friends. Talk about the way that mental health gets portrayed in the media. Talk about how mental health shows up in social media. Talk about how social media challenges your mental health. We need to get educated, education from reputable sources, education from speaking with people who are experiencing mental health challenges and asking them what would be most beneficial in helping support them. Making sure that they understand that you are there and that you are willing to listen, and you are not going to judge, and you're not going to pretend that you understand things that you don't understand, but that you are open to listen for the purpose of listening, and that you aren't just listening to respond to make yourself feel better or to have something to say. It is so okay to tell someone that you don't know what to say, or that you don't know how to support them. In fact, I would really encourage that vulnerability in saying, hey, I can see that you're going through something that is so hard and I don't understand, but I'm willing to sit with you in the mud. I'm willing to sit next to you in the darkness, and I'm willing to listen should you choose to want to speak. Another thing that we can do is to look at our own languaging, to examine our biases, to examine the judgments that we make of people. And when we're talking about language, let's not use mental health terms as labels. If you like to be really organized, don't say I'm so OCD. If your emotions are feeling all over the place, don't label yourself as crazy or psycho or a lunatic. When we use those labels in derogatory ways, it contributes to stigma. And I'm not ever going to pretend to be perfect. I do it. But having a greater awareness, like I spoke about in my previous video, having some mindfulness around what you say and how you respond and the ways that you converse, that'll help break the stigma. It really will. If you come across really good resources, articles that maybe pop up on your Facebook or on your Instagram, or posts that you resonate on Instagram, or YouTube videos like this one, you can share them. The more people that have a greater understanding, the more people that have more knowledge, the better that we can do. When we know better, we can do better. Another thing that we can do to help reduce the stigma around mental health is to seek out opportunities to support people that we know with mental health challenges. And not in a way where you're rushing in to be a helper. They don't need to be babied. They don't need to be looked after, or sometimes they actually might. But if you know that someone is going through something challenging, what might it be like, rather than to ignore it and to sweep it under the carpet, to actually bring it up, to be vulnerable in yourself will encourage vulnerability in others as well. One last thing that I'd like to mention that we can do to help break the stigma is to not see people as labels. If someone has a mental health diagnosis, don't see them as their diagnosis. I am not anorexia, I'm not anxiety, I'm not depression, I'm Casey, and I might not know who that is yet, but I'm definitely not a list of diagnostic criteria. I'm a lot more than that. And so is every other individual with their own mental health challenges. See people, as humans, relate to them on a human-to-human level, and it'll help break that cycle of stigma. It'll encourage people to talk about their challenges. The more normalized these kinds of conversations are, the more readily people might be able to reach out for support. So my final takeaway messages for today. My favorite: when we know better, we can do better. I'm going to say it a lot on this channel, I promise. You're probably going to get sick of it. Sorry about it. Another thing I'd like to leave you with is that if you're struggling, I see you, I hear you, you deserve help. You don't need to get sicker to get help. You don't need your mental health to deteriorate further before you get help. You're deserving of it now. You are worthy of it now. No matter if it is a small struggle or a big struggle, we don't need to compare. If you're struggling, you deserve support and help. So please reach out. Again, I've got some resources attached in the description box below. Remember that if you are in a crisis, emergency services should be your first port of call. And do remember to tread gently with yourself as you begin to do your part to help break the stigma surrounding mental health. Let me know what your favorite takeaway was down in the comments below. If you like this video today, please support my channel by giving it a thumbs up. It'll mean that this video can get to a wider audience, and the more people that see these kinds of resources, the less stigma there will hopefully be. If I have helped even just one person feel less alone by making these videos, then I am so very pleased. And if you'd like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe so that you don't miss any videos. And I am endeavoring to post each Thursday evening. Take such good care, you guys. Thank you so much. Reach out. Let's break the stigma together. Bye-bye.